Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Welcome back to our discussion of the Tyldwick Tarot, and happy Valentine's Day to each and every one of you. This is quite extraordinary how this card sort of turned up on the discussion for today, and I think it's just amazing how this all works. This is not planned, it's just the card that happens to be the one we're discussing on this day. So I think I'm going to go a little bit more into the meaning of this card and talk about. I've pulled out a few lovers cards from different decks, and let's just really start to think about this card and all that it represents and means. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for your lovely feedback on this series. And I know this is quite an extraordinary deck, and it takes a bit to get into. So I think having patience with it is really, really important. And for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Sadhana, and I am a reader, teacher of tarot, among many other things. And so know that you are welcome, and I really appreciate you and your support of this channel. Hello, Clevis. Namaste. Happy Valentine's Day. Hello to Arya. Namaste. So let's begin with looking at the details in the Tyldwick, and then we will go and talk a little bit more about some other cards. And I'll just sort of zoom in here a little bit if I can, so we can look at what is going on in this card. And of course, I'll share with you. I'll let you know what other decks I'm pulling out. I've got and I think it's really important that we talk about the history of the Marseille, because this is where this all comes from. So perhaps I will refer to the Marseille decks first, and then talk about some of the other ones. Yeah. Okay. And I am referring, of course, to some of Joe's notes for the Lover's card. And I did look up actually the fountain that he refers to, the Fountain of Diana, and I encourage you to go and look up this fountain that is located in Syracuse. Now, there may be other fountains of Diana around the world, but the one I was looking at is the one that's located in Syracuse, and I couldn't really see the stag clearly in that fountain, so I may have had the wrong fountain. But here we are looking at Diana. So this is Artemis, goddess of the hunt, and she is leaning on or resting on a stag. So this is showing a nature of the goddess that is, I think about decks like, I can't even think, but there is like a wild woman, you know, a natural sort of energy that is often contained. And the energy of Diana and the hunt feels authentic and bold and connected deeply to nature and to all beings. And I imagine also, you know, this is not hunting for the sake of hunting. This is hunting for, there would be reciprocal offerings as well too. I think this is it's a beautiful goddess to look at in this card. Standing over a bust of Hermes, so smaller in the foreground on the desk, we have a bust of Hermes. And this is, the artist is Praxiteles, standing between two portraits of women, and one, the older, is on the left and the younger is on the right. And the reason for this has to do with the way that the older Marseille decks portrayed the lovers with a younger woman on the right and an older woman on the left. And then the man was in the center. and we'll get to this. So let's just finish looking at what is on the table here. This is a version of the old style lovers, sometimes called two ways, the two ways, where maturity and wealth is embodied in one woman and beauty and youth in the other. Diana takes the place of Cupid overhead. And there's this free spirited nature. And I think it's really interesting that the Diana figure is so large in this particular card. And that is something that is very unique to this card. So that's why I encourage you to have a look at the statue, to think about the energy of Diana and how this might inform the energy of the card. And then there is a reference to the drawers that are down below. So you can see, I'm using my pointer, but you can't see my pointer. The pointer is over here. The two drawers below, suggesting there is a choice in each of those drawers. I think that's quite clever, the way that that's done. Now, this portrayal of the Lover's card, I think, can really help in understanding why the keyword choice is so fundamental to this card, and how this card became the card of Gemini, a card of air, a card of choices, a card of the final decans of the suit of swords, where we have these very mind perplexing situations to sort through. Now, that of course is a layer that was added on by the Golden Dawn, and we're not going there necessarily in this card. However, it all connects, and it's all part of the mandala of tarot, the mandala of tarot that exists now. And so we have a lot of information that we can work with in this card. So we have here, often described as the sun and his mother on the right, the lover, the girlfriend on the left. And depending on the deck you are looking at, you can see in the deck I'm pointing at, Cupid's arrow is sort of directly, I don't know, it's kind of between these two. Usually Cupid's arrow is pointing in this direction. And the choice is here that, you know, if I remain mommy's boy, then everything is still looked after. I still get my meals cooked. I know my laundry's going to be done. I'm going to be looked after. I know what to expect. But if I choose the love and the passion, and I choose this girlfriend, everything's going to change. Everything as I know it is going to change. And she may not necessarily be a reflection of the mother. However, we know through psychology studies that often the woman that is chosen, or the partner that is chosen, is a reflection of the parent of the same sex. And that's really interesting. But this idea of choice here is one, and kind of what I wanted to talk about this evening is Peter Pan syndrome. And what Peter Pan syndrome might have to do with this card. And I know that is one narrow interpretation. And I think Clevis offers something here as well, too, and that is the boy desperately wants his mother's approval. And I think that's a very natural, it's very natural. to want that. Now, in the older decks, Cupid is blindfolded. Love is blind. Cupid doesn't know exactly where. Cupid is shooting the arrow, and we can read quite a bit into that as well too. I'm just looking at these decks here, and I think it's amazing how Rosario Salerno used this color, like the traditional color. We have the blue and the blue and the green and the green. I really appreciate that. That's really something. But also, you will see that the gaze of the boy in the middle looks towards the mother, looks towards the approval. This is very interesting. And there's a whole other scenario going on, it looks like. I mean, I think we could make up any number of situations in this card, and that might be over. And it's funny, I'm looking at this deck here, and I don't know that I've ever read the guidebook, but I can see that there is perhaps a pregnant woman here and one who's not. And there may be a very difficult decision that has to be made here. In Italy, Clevis says, there is a name for this single men that do not marry because mother is better. They have bachelor pads for action, but leave with mom. Live with mom, probably. Yeah. So this is what is being brought into this deck. Now, we've had lots of conversations about not in a great depth, but in the suit of swords, we do see the sword shapes in the cards from the Tarot de Marseille. Please tell me I have a Tarot de Marseille. So the deck on the left, by the way, is the new choice Tarot de Marseille, Rosario Salerno. It is an indie deck. And what I was just saying is that in the swords cards in this deck, we do see the symbol of the suit of swords from the Tarot de Marseille in all of the swords cards. So there is a case that this deck skews Tarot de Marseille. However, I think there are a lot of layers in the Tyldwick Tarot, but the more informed you are as to different ways of looking at cards, I think you will be able to speak to and address many more things. Okay, so I did want to mention that. Now, if your familiarity, and it's interesting, this is the Yonasa Yao's 4th edition, and this particular card is based on the Conver deck. No, yes? Jodorowsky's work. And sorry, it took me a minute there. And this card looks a lot more like perhaps a variation on a Wade Smith Lovers. We see lots of Lovers cards that look like this. And I think it's to look at this card, we can come at it quite, obviously we have, not obviously, it's not clear whether we have same sex, whether we have opposite sexes. We have definitely different skin tone colors. But with each of those choices of lover, there is a myriad of consequences. And I don't necessarily, like I mentioned Peter Pan syndrome, but I think the idea of this card is that one of the ideas is that when we engage in relationship, we are forced to grow up. everything, like I said, is going to change as we know it. And there are some really clever decks. I had this one on the table earlier, and you can just imagine a story, who the party is on the bottom right. And those of you that have studied the Thoth Tarot know that we're looking at the biblical original story of the choice between Eve and Lilith, and Lilith making the choice not to be the first wife. So let's really honor this card in its complexity and the myriad of choices that come into our lives when this card appears. Now, I have always examined this card and thought, okay, it is a 6. There is an invitation in 6s, this beautiful number for harmony, which is ideally what we're looking for in a relationship, for harmony and some contentment and peace. And 6 is a pretty sweet number in the tarot, and I want to remember that simultaneously as well too. So we have an opportunity, a possibility in this card to find this with the choice that is going to serve our greater good. So I think this is one of these cards where we're looking at the surrounding cards in a spread to understand how or what informs this choice. What informs this? Now, we are not always in relationship with another. Sometimes in this card, of course, we are discovering aspects of self. And this idea of and one of my favorite lovers cards, honest to God, it is the tarot, Le Tarot au Amour Étrange. This is the first time I think I've seen a lover's card, and there is a woman naked in a wildflower field, lying down on her back, luxuriating in the sun. And it's just, I love myself to take an afternoon off and go just be alone in nature. And there is that as well too. And so that comes with, I think what we're looking at in this card is the ripples that come out of the choices that we make. And I know myself, when I made that choice to invest in, and this is a scary place for a lot of people, you make this choice to invest in yourself and to discover yourself and to fall in love with yourself, maybe for the first time in your life. There are other things that need to give. So perhaps it's about growing up, but it's about understanding, we can't have it all. If we choose one, then another is going to fall away. Yeah. And I think even in a polyamorous relationship, if that is a choice that we are making, energy, the purity and the focus and the power of energy, the more that it is diffused, the less potency it has. And there's so much goodness in this card so much for us to learn, so much. So in the Tyldwick Tarot, we have a reflection of the Tarot de Marseille, with the portraits in the correct positions. Now the bust of Hermes is really interesting as well too, and you may want to reflect on that. Now this fits beautifully. I mentioned earlier that this card has been assigned to Gemini through the Golden Dawn system, and Hermes, Mercury, is often seen as an air symbol. Hermes, Mercury as the teacher and the healer. So this fits so brilliantly here. And I think this is another reason for understanding the layers of multiple systems, and the more info you have, the more you can lean into this card. This card as a standalone card, I think, also speaks a few things very uniquely. And that, like I said, is the proportion of the portraits to the goddess Diana, the power of the goddess to, and maybe this, I wish I don't have that deck out right now, but I do have a walkthrough of and many readings with Le Tarot au Rameau Étrange, Tarot of the Strange Branches, or Tarot of the Strange Antlers in English. And this card is just, it's brilliant. And I feel that power of the goddess in that card as well too. Like there's an embracing of that energy that allows one to find oneself. So yeah, now the furniture. Let's go to the furniture. Heavy, oak, maybe, desk. Look at the horizon line as well too. You know, in some decks we really pay attention to horizon lines. I'm talking about this particular line here. 1/3 desk, 2/3 the portrait on the back wall. So proportion can definitely play into this, but it's definitely a solid base. And it gives, for me, it gives weight to the, it's just unique to this deck and to this card. I would be inclined to speak to personal power. Personal power. Yes, it does. It looks like the staging of the RWS cards, exactly. I want to speak to the personal power of the goddess within. It feels highly influential here. And yet, Hermes is in the foreground. And so there is this energy of that between these two women of different ages, between the crone and the maiden. It's a really cool depiction of this card. Yeah. Okay, so there is the pentacles. Let's look at the minor sixes and just sort of feel this energy and see if we can pick up on any correspondences between the minors and the majors. Okay. We have the laurel wreath, which is a very much a Waite Smith sort of symbol for this card. And the pillars on the temple are very red. It's like the laurel wreath is a crowning glory of sorts. So I'm going to start with the words of Joe, and then I'll expand on my own sort of interpretation of this. So he doesn't name the temple, though it does look darn familiar. Ah, yes. This is actually a consideration that has always haunted me in the Waite Smith Six of Wands. And that is, and it also has to do with the way that that horse looks in the Six of Wands. There's an attitude there. And I wonder often, what has this, or who has this victor walked over? You know, when somebody wins, when somebody succeeds, other people don't succeed. And when we are in these moments, hi Perry, of glory, sometimes we forget uh, the those that stood by us through thick and thin to get us to where we are. And if we think of the laurel wreath, and we think of the Olympics, and we think of athletes, you know, these are parents in Canada. During the Olympics, for years, we've had these very tearful, heartfelt, very emotional Tim Hortons commercials. Tim Hortons is a um, fast food chain that sells coffee and hot chocolate and donuts, among other things. And they always make these tearjerker commercials during the Olympics. And it's always about the coaches and the parents that put in all these hours of and years of work to see their child through to this great podium. And when I look at this card in its many iterations, I feel, or if I receive this card myself in a reading, one of the first things I want to do is get humble and think and be really come into a mood of gratitude. This is super interesting because 6 is center of tree of life, center of the chakras in the Anahat chakra, the heart chakra. 6, union of the upward and downward facing triangles, the blade and the chalice. And one of the greatest medicines of the heart chakra is gratitude. It is for healing of all kinds of the heart. And I remember that when I look at six of wands. Yeah, this querent, me, whoever the reading is for, let's just take a moment here and close our eyes and think about how we got here. And when I think about, I've had out recently Anatorian's Tarot of the Abyss, and there is a ballerina on the stage, and you see her taking a bow, probably a prima ballerina. It's a solo, and similar things, and yes, it's a lot of pain and ache on her part, a lot of cotton batting in the toe shoes and lots of blood and sore muscles, but there's also lots of physiotherapists and massage therapists and choreographers and costume designers who stay up all hours of the night. This is a very heart chakra centered card. I think like a big lesson sort of card. And when we reflect on the connection here with the lovers and the choices of the heart that we make, this thing about ripples is so important. The ripples that go out. And then we turn to the 6 of Cups. When I look at the Tyldwick here, I think of all that is not seen. All that is not seen. All that is, this could be the mist of a waterfall. It could be a foggy day, a foggy morning. Sometimes that which we cannot see carries so much energy. And the idea of this being a card of reminiscing and nostalgia and deep connections makes sense with this whole story of the 6s. The 6s, this place of the heart, there's so much energy that flows through there, and not just of this generation, but of course other generations. And remember how important heart healing is here. Yeah, an old glass window. Okay, so I remember being, I did a house exchange in Hawaii many years ago. My kids were little, and it was spring break, and the weather was was awful. It was stormy and cold the whole time, and I just wanted to sit. We were quite near the ocean, not right on the ocean, but quite near, and we could see. But the windows were all um, they were no longer clear because the sand erodes the glass, like old windows, and there's storms and there are years of life that make things less clear. Um, and I could think of lots of different ways we could go with this in a reading. And yet, there's also a sense of wonder. Wonder. It almost feels like magic. And one of those moments where you might be on a boat and the boat goes under the waterfall, and then you get to the other side and you see the colorful birds and I don't know, like I can imagine all kinds of things. There's been some really clever scenes and TV shows and movies and theme parks, where this sort of experience, and it's, um, yeah, Six of Cups. Six of Cups. Let's go to just see what Joe has to say about this one. Joe is, and I say Joe. I don't know if these words are Neil's words or Joe's words, but the Lovell brothers. Beyond the barrier, the sea of memory and childhood, the caring and nurture give to us as we watered the pansies with a children's watering can, looming over it, the shadow of an adult remembering. Yeah, and I don't know if you can see a shadow of an adult in that picture or not. I did the Anahat class already, right? For this go at the chakra class. I think this is an interesting yeah. I want to remember this card. Hmm. Okay, let's look at the other two. So if we look to connections, which is very much a part of the Six of Cups, as well as the Six of Wands. So why are these heart-centered cards so full of connections? And often we can feel overwhelmed here because the connections, we don't have the ability to stand back and see it all simultaneously and understand it all. We can often be overwhelmed here, even though this generally is a place of contentment in the tarot. And so in the Six of Swords, which in Waite Smith is a place of moving forward from the Five of Swords, we have here this, to me, this could be a Two of Wands sort of energy. We see a globe in a stand and a map of the world in the on the wall. And so we do get a sense of journeying. There perhaps is a sense of the unknown. We haven't gone yet. Perhaps there are, again, decisions to be made. And if we go back to the humility piece, just looking at how large the world is, and when we make a choice, a decision to go to a particular destination, It's just, it's a little pinpoint on a map. I went into the British store in a town near where I live, and they had a map of the UK, and visitors that come into the store often have UK heritage or an affinity for UK food or things. And so they have, you can get a thumbtack and put it into the place where you are from. And, it just really, those sort of maps really remind me just how small we are and what a grand and wide world this is. And that is another exercise in being humble and understanding how our ways, our customs, our traditions are just a way. And through this heart chakra, many ways intersect. Now, in the Waite Smith, this Six of Wands has a sense of hope. It has a sense of moving on. There's a sense of optimism. To me, feels very spiritual. Often there's light in the distance. And so I love that card in so many decks. We don't know where we are going, but we know that going is in our highest. And so there's movement suggested here, movement through the heart space. Yeah. And this is so interesting that if this is a card of openness and possibilities, this six is one where the door is closed, the door is heavy. It would, I imagine opening that door and it would make a noise and maybe be a bit creaky. It's also set in stone. Let's see if there's a description of the door. Just one second here. I'll read you the description of the door. The doors of the rich, guarded by griffins and with a chain across the top. But there are urns outside the gate and the possibility of assistance inside. The craftwork on the doors shows the exchange between workman or artist and the patron who needs the work done. Both have something to offer that the other hasn't. This feels sort of like a forced association here. When you read little white books and you go, yeah, okay, let's just look at the art. So what do we have? We have some brick steps leading up to this doorway. Maybe another doorway of possibilities. Sixes. And there's something here as well, too. If you look at the way that the light focuses on the lock on the door, that is a little bit higher up. I'm almost seeing like a cross here. I hadn't noticed that before. And that feels, again, like some important intersections to reflect on. And sure, you can take those intersections back to sort of, Waite Smith interpretations, but this feels like I may be entering sacred space. That the door is closed, asking me to pause and reflect on these connections. Circles, these little mandalas, are very powerful. There are 6 of them. This almost looks, let me get a 6 of Tarot de Marseille for you. And hopefully Rosario has it. Where is the rest of this deck? There it is. All right, let's get another one. Just give me a second. I'll pull out the Jodorowsky deck. Yeah, Sacred Journey again. Six of Pentacles. So here is another example of a very one-to-one. 5. No, that one doesn't line them up. Okay, I need to look. So what I was thinking is that they look like a Six of Pentacles, but this is the Jodorowsky deck. They don't line up. Cups, Wands. No. Okay. Just give me a second here. Okay, so not a direct correspondence. Let me look at one other Tarot de Marseille, the way the Six of Pentacles is lined up. 2, 3, 4, 5. No. So they're not stacked. They are not stacked like the cups. They go in this format. Okay. So the reason I was doing that was I was seeing if there is a direct correspondence to the Tarot de Marseille, but it does. It looks more like the way that the Six of Cups is arranged, with the greenery running through, and then we have 3 cups on one side and 3 on the other. But this is not a Six of Cups, it's a Six of Coins. So can't draw that in, but it does. In a way, it does look like a Marseille card. And then the other, there's an opulence here, sacredness. And doors. So the doors in this deck. That is another exercise that I don't know if I have done, but to go through the deck and pull out all the cards with doors, closed doors, open doors, just to get a feel for the doors, because they are powerful symbols of portals and openings. And so this is the suit of coins. So perhaps this card can also symbolize an opening of that. Are you ready? In this material world, are you ready to open your heart? I mean, you can do this. You can stretch this in. Why I'm pausing here is that I want to read this deck for what it is portraying. And what it's portraying to me is there's a solidity. It's a very coin sort of card, very solid. There's an antiquity, yes, to the card. Very much in this material world. And so I want to reflect on the energy of 6 and what it might mean to open that door, or what it might mean just to sit and observe and be in reverence of that door. So again, we have a choice to make here. Do we open the door? Or do we stay in the space and turn around and go in a different direction? Remember that in all of these 6s, you have a choice. Yeah. So, if you have other thoughts, please come back, or just in a few moments when I sign off, you can go and leave a comment. And I would be really happy to carry on these discussions further in any way. In any way. So next week, we'll have a look at the sevens, and sevens are a big complex number. So have a look at the chariot. And again, we have another statue and the chariot card, and there is a sense of movement, and I may pull out some of the other movement cards as well too. But I might just take a moment here. I've got a few minutes before I go live on Facebook and just go through the deck and pull out some of the doors and prepare that for next week as well too. Yeah. So thank you for your contribution to the conversation, and I will see you in the next episode. Take good care of yourselves and happy Valentine's Day. Namaste.